totally succeeded with goals and objectives because it came really easily to figure out how you go from big to smaller. What was helpful about that exercise? Did it give you focus a little bit more?
Able to see the big picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can keep going
Oh,
down
yeah.
deeper. You imagine how that goes, that starting somewhere helps get your mind going and realizing that there's steps that you got to follow and that there's a process that we all have to do in back planning, essentially how we get from where we are today to where we want to be, and this is the beginning of that process. So, anybody have any questions, clarifications, thoughts, fears? Great. Okay, you ready? So next time, we're going to have our whole session about prototyping. So this is our chance to actually get you working on a project that has a beginning, a middle, and an end that is something that you're going to actually prototype. So it may be a piece of furniture, it may be a pillow, it may be a new wood item, a broom, a book. I don't know. Is that a room? Is that like a chapter?
A short story.
A short story? Yes.
Sounds good. With an illustration.
Yeah, yeah. So the purpose, though, of us doing that exercise, it has multiple reasons. One is that we got to make something in order to find out how long it takes to make it, what the materials cost, what it looks like, how easy is it, can we replicate it, and then we've got to get information about what people think of it. So the reason to do it is to go back to that first exercise we did in class 1 where we got feedback from people about what we imagined doing. This is a chance for us to get feedback again, but with something specific. So this is an opportunity to find out whether our pricing makes sense, whether people value it, who wants to buy it, so that we can adjust and figure out whether our model and our process makes sense enough to go forward. So what we're going to do in this project is we're going to have you figuring out next week, or in 2 weeks, sorry. Next week is Thanksgiving week. We do not meet next Monday. We meet the following Monday on the 28th. I think that's right. But what you're going to do is figure out the experiments and the information that you want to know. Remember how we started talking about research and what experiments and what data we need to know. Each of you are going to have different things that you need to learn. It isn't just about price and value. There may be other things that really matter that may or may not have to do with your customer. It may have to do with the process that you're using and whether it's going to work. It may have to do with whether someone else can do what you made, or whether really only you can, and is that a problem? Do you want other people to do what you're making? For a product that is a service, understanding how the customer relates to it and how your training goes. I mean, all of those things are pieces that you're going to want to figure out what you're trying to learn so that you can design the experiments appropriately. Now, do you guys have any questions about what a minimum viable product is, or do we all feel pretty good about knowing what you need to make? That it's not crappy, it's the smallest version of what you can make so that you can get information about it. And not miniature.
That's what I was thinking.
It is not a little tiny chair. So, I think I've talked about this woman before, who was a science teacher who loved to read, but this was one of her first quilt projects. So this was a woman who took children's books and made a quilt that was made out of the characters from the books. Well, so she wasn't a quilter, but she hired quilters. That was, so she was employing artists to help her do this first quilt that went with, I don't remember what the book was. Does anyone recognize those characters?
No.
Okay. Anyway, some book
So
is
what was the
related
book,
to
though?
these, and I don't remember what it was. But that's what she needed to do. She needed to actually have the quilt made, and for her, there was a whole bunch that she learned in this process about the pricing from the artist, where she could get the material and at what price points. It, for her, raised a bunch of questions about intellectual property and the relationship with her and the authors that she was working with, whose book was being illustrated on the quilt. So all of those things, we may not know what all the experiments are, but along the way in the process, you'll start to figure out, oh, I've totally missed this. I need to go back and find out how I'm gonna solve this problem over here, otherwise I can't make it to the end of this process. So this is what we're heading towards, and in order to do that, please go back to what you were doing today and go back and look a little bit further at where you're trying to go, dig into your market and your customers before you decide what your prototype really is gonna be, because you want to be able to get some feedback once you've made it to prototype land. And so the more you know about who you're trying to talk to, we can help you find the people who you want to get feedback from. Does that make sense?